Hey, it's Dr. Infinity. Welcome to White Pill Media.
Faggot, provolone, faggot.
I'm going to be talking about this TV show, Poldark. It came out in 1975. It had like 2 seasons, 29 episodes. There's a newer version of the show. I believe it started in like 2015 and went to 2019. But I'm not talking about that one. I'm just talking about the older show. It was recommended to me, so I just want to say thanks for the recommendation. I enjoyed the show, and you guys can always feel free to leave recommendations in the comments on really like any video. I'm just going to talk about what I liked in the show. I'm not going to go like in depth for every single episode. I'm probably just going to fly by some of the episodes. Yeah, so I'm going to have full spoilers for the show. I like it. If you're curious about it, it's, I guess, like historical drama. That's the best way to describe it. It starts with Ross Poldark, who is a veteran from the American Revolution. He fought for the British, and he's coming home to Cornwall in England, right? And things have kind of deteriorated for him where everyone at home thought he was dead. And like financially, he's not doing great. And the woman that he was engaged to is now set to marry his cousin. So there's a lot of drama. I think it's a pretty good show. There are some pretty dark moments in there. Like, I think it's like good. There's some really good stuff in there. It pretty like consistently keeps its quality. I think I might like the earlier stuff a bit more, but I think like consistently it's pretty good. It's pretty decent. So it's got good acting, good cast, and yeah, I think like pretty like fine writing, and then like you kind of learn a bit more about some of the stuff going on in England at the time, because like the Revolutionary War is just wrapping up, and then the Napoleonic War is like kicking off, because I believe the show ends in 1800, right? I already kind of talked about the first episode in the spoilers where Ross is coming home and he has to deal with his cousins. We have Francis as his cousin, also Verity, his sister. There's a lot of drama going on with Francis now marrying Elizabeth, right? Ross also wants to work the old family mine, but Warlagan was trying to purchase the mine when they thought that his uncle was going to have the rights to it because Ross was dead. So now that's fallen through, but he's still being like pressed by his uncle for the money, right? And Elizabeth has married Francis at the end of episode 1, so a lot of stuff has already happened. Episode 2 being introduced to Demelza in the market. She cleans up pretty nice, I'll say that, for the actress here. But yeah, there's some good stuff with Demelza here.
You mind your business! Don't kill the boy if you go on. Enough! Boy, she's a mad, and she's worse than all the rest. 2 days she been around here. I seen her.
Kind of learn Demelza's had like a pretty tough life where she's like 14 and it seems like a kind of homeless prostitute, which is like really fucked up and pretty dark.
I could take them off for a shilling. I've done it before. What are you laughing at? Stop it! Stop it! What's so funny? I've done it before. Stop laughing.
We have Demelza's dad, Tom Carn, showing up at the manor demanding money, which really, really reminded me of My Fair Lady. If you haven't seen it, I think it's pretty good. It's not like a favorite, but it's pretty good. It's this musical where basically this rich guy, he takes in this street woman and he has a bet with a friend to try to make her speak like proper English. And her dad has like the same arc as Tom Carn, which is interesting, where they're pieces of shit that show up to the rich guy's house. They demand compensation because they think the guy has slept with their daughter and is using them for that purpose. And later on, they both like clean up and then come into some money. It's interesting. I thought that was an interesting comparison. But we have some good stuff. I like Judd. Judd's a cool guy. He's funny. I can't really understand him most of the time, so I really have to have subtitles. Judd shows up late, and he has some really good lines and scenes later on that I'll get into.
Like, are you ready where you say?
Sure!
When
they come running and says there's murder going on. Where be 'em all? I'll lure 'em. You're too late, Judd. They've gone. Huh?
And we have the introduction of Captain Blamey, who is the suitor for Verity. And Verity's a nice woman and all. We don't really get to see too much. She kind of falls out of the show at a certain point. That kind of sucks because I liked her character. I like the actress, but, I guess that just kind of happens with that. Oh, in the third episode, Demelza is no longer like kind of this street rat. She's kind of cleaned up herself and she's like really pretty now. Yeah, she cleans up quite well, and everyone's like kind of has the hots for Demelza in the series. Oh, yeah. Okay, so episode 4, we get to see Tom Karn, where he is now completely turned his life around. He's a preacher. He's married a widow. And yeah, that was my comparison to My Fair Lady. Demelza is pregnant from Ross. That happened in episode 3, but she doesn't want to like burden him with it, But, there's some good drama and whatever where Ross is trying to get Elizabeth to leave Francis, but by the time Ross figures it out that he's the father and he has to offer to marry her, not that he exactly like loves her at this point, but it's the right thing because Demelza's really not going to have a great life in this time period if she's an unwed mother. You know what I mean? He has to turn Elizabeth down and reject her. In episode 5, we get to see some actors show up. There's this woman here, Sheila White. She had a role in I, Claudius. She was Messalina. She was Claudius's wife. She is Karen Daniel in here. Yeah, I believe her name's Karen Daniel, right? So she's Karen Daniel in here, but not to... Yeah, I won't spoil like everything for I, Claudius. It's a really great other like BBC television show. In I, Claudius, her character, there's a bit of an overlap between her character here and her character in that show. It's not like completely, but they definitely have some stuff in common. That one guy, Jim Carter, has died in episode 7. The actress woman, her husband finds out that she's been cheating on him, so then he has her killed. We have, Captain Blamey because Verity didn't show up when she promised. He has thought about drinking, but he ends up resisting. I like Blamey. Yeah, I like Blamey. I like Verity. Ross helps Mark Daniel escape because this kind of confused me a little bit because, he doesn't believe that Mark Daniel's going to get, a fair trial. I can understand that if they think he's just going to be killed without a fair trial. He admits that he killed his wife. And I know we don't like his wife. I know his wife's a bad person. It's still murder, though, right? So it confused me a little bit that he's, so enthusiastic to help Mark Daniel escape, but whatever. 8th episode, this got, really fucking dark. It's Christmas, Francis is ill. Demelza and Julia, their baby, are both ill with it. We have Demelza really sick in bed, and Ross is just, he's so distraught. And then, quietly, Dr. Ennis comes into the room and he speaks to Ross. And then Ross goes out and it's him kneeling in front of the crib, and his little girl has died. And he goes outside, there's this storm going on, and he's debating committing suicide by jumping off the cliff, and the only thing that stops it is that he sees this ship. I don't know if capsizing is the right word, but the ship's being tossed around in the storm, and it's gonna break apart so then they can loot everything inside, right? So that's the only thing that saves him there, because he's really gonna do it. That was pretty dark, a little darker than I was thinking the show would go, but I like it. I think it's really good. Anyways, Ross gets arrested there. And then, we have a lot of stuff with the trial with the Warlegans paying off people for false testimony, Francis thinks about, committing suicide, He did attempt it, but his gun ended up misfiring in the 9th episode. Judd ends up being, a decent guy who initially was going to go against Poldark because, Ross threw him out of the house, but he does the right thing and he covers for him during the trial. Poldark ends up going free, Judd ends up coming back. And Ross is going along with smuggling now to kind of make ends meet around the place. 12th episode, we get, Caroline. She's kind of been in the background, I feel. She's kind of been in the background, but it turns out she's been the one sending Ennis oranges so that he can treat people that have scurvy. We have Ross beating the shit out of George Warlegan in a tavern. That was cool. Oh, shit, the 13th episode. Yeah, so Demelza has given birth to a son. And Francis thinks that they found copper down in the mine, but when he goes down there, he ends up drowning all alone. It's damn, I liked Francis. I think he's kind of a piece of shit, kind of a good guy, kind of a piece of shit, good guy. At the end of the day, he was a good guy. And some secret person has been paying off Ross's debt, so he's now free from the Warlegans, okay? Okay, so 15th episode, we have there's an accident at the mine, and it gets just fucking annihilated in this blast, right? And I think just one person dies, but a lot of people get hurt. And then Ross ends up going to Elizabeth. Demelza's just like screaming at him, go to her, and it's just like, fuck, I really wish Ross didn't do this. Like, you can kind of understand like why his character did. I still don't like it, but I can kind of understand his character. You know what I mean? I can understand that. In the 16th episode, war has begun. We have people starving. Warlegans are throwing people off the land. Figured out that Carolyn is the rich woman, or is the rich person who has loaned money to Poldark, so I like her a lot. They kind of have some tension between them, and she kind of discusses that in like a later episode, but she's nice. She's a good looking woman. And we have a mob coming down to burn down the Warlegan estate, right? Ross ends up coming home because he was like deathly ill while in the service. It was some kind of condition that happened because like he was in some swamps during the Revolutionary War. And Judd has a great line here of when Demelza's throwing him out to go do some work.
Satan, do some work!
Freezing cold, man might die. She don't care.
There's also I forgot to write it down, and I'm not sure what episode it happens in, but Judd has a good line about ain't right, ain't proper. He's got a bunch of good little lines. Oh, and since this is like part 2 or like the second season, they have a new actor for George Warlegan's father, and Dr. Ennis also has a new actor. I think those are the only people that have changed, but it's really just those two. And Elizabeth has given birth now. Ross has gone off to France because they're searching for Dr. Ennis, who is somewhere down there, right? And now George, Elizabeth, and them have moved into another Poldark house with Aunt Agatha. Oh, and we also get an introduction in episode 19 to Reverend Whitworth, who I'm positive, and I looked it up. I got excited when I saw him on the screen. It's Nero. He was only in one episode of I, Claudius, but he played like the Nero for that one episode. So it was really cool seeing him again. That was really cool. They end up storming this French prison, escaping over the next few episodes, and end up getting the doctor back home, right? They end up getting the doctor back home, and like the new Warlegan baby is like really ill. Apparently he has like rickets, and rickets is when you don't get like enough vitamin D, right? And I don't really know a lot about it. I think maybe because back then you didn't like want your baby out in the sunlight or something, or maybe they thought that was bad, so their babies just wouldn't get enough vitamin D, and then like their bones wouldn't like form correctly, so it would make them kind of somewhat malformed, or I guess that's the right way to say it. George Warlegan, he has a confrontation with the aunt, and then she brings up that he might be a cuck, and then, he kind of throttles her a little bit, and then she ends up dying here. Carolyn and Dwight are married, that's nice. The vicar is just kind of like this really fat pervert. I guess, he's a good guy for Nero, I guess. Oh, we get the introduction of like Hugh Armitage, who they also rescued from that French prison, who's like pretty sweet on Demelza, right? We have Drake Karn, his blacksmith like forge or whatever. This gets burned down by Warlegan. In the 24th episode, this is the first time he gets burned down. It will happen again. The priest, or I guess he's called a vicar. I don't know what the fuck a vicar is, but I assume it's some type of preacher. But he's gotten his wife's sister's pregnant, and there's now this wedge between Demelza and Ross. And, Demelza's like kissing Hugh Armitage by the end, and it seems like, yeah, they most likely slept together, right? They definitely did sleep together, which is like, Ross stepped out with Elizabeth, so I'm not like too like angry or surprised, it's just like, I don't know, Ross set the precedent, right? Ross ends up joining Parliament in the next episode. I'm not sure exactly what he does there. The show doesn't really like cover like what his day-to-day duties will be while in Parliament, but he is down there, and he's learned that Demelza and Hugh Armitage definitely did have an affair, right? Ross ends up coming home in the next episode. Caroline's had this little girl. Caroline's daughter is dying, and she's just not really handling it well, and Dwight doesn't really know what to do. And over the next few episodes, she's like avoiding Dwight. She's avoiding having to kind of confront any of this, right? And the Warlegans, they're fucking around again, and they're trying to take out like Pasco's bank. We figure out that the vicar is a foot fag. So there's that. I didn't think the show would have that, but there you go. Oh, and Drake's blacksmith forge gets burned down for a second fucking time because he was supposed to marry a woman, and the day before the wedding, he ends up going to Morwenna because the vicar has now died, so now she's free, right? Demelza has some like cute attempts to try to save Pasco's bank. It does not work. And they end up losing everything. But you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't even be angry at Demelza because she's really trying to be a good woman and just do the right thing here, by helping this guy out, because Pasco's helped them out when they had nothing. Ross ends up fighting a duel with this guy, and he ends up winning. It's Adderley, right? It's Adderley. Caroline and Ross kind of have a scene in here where Caroline admits that she'd kind of like to sleep with Ross, and her, but neither of them can do it because they can't betray, Demelza and Dwight. They just can't do it to them, right? Morwenna has now come to Drake, and they're going to get married. They might not sleep together for a while, but they care about each other, and they're just going to take it slow. They're going to take it slow, which is nice. And then both Ross and Caroline have come home. It's a nice moment for the series where they both come home and like things are going to be all right. Elizabeth is like desperate to prove to George that, the first baby Valentine is his. So she ends up taking this, some type of thing that makes her give birth like 2 months early to a baby girl, but this ends up killing her. The series ends with Ross and Demelza like kissing and holding each other, and, things might be tough, but they have each other, so it's going to be okay. They'll get through it together. And George Warlegan curses Agatha Poldark while staring at his wife's coffin, because now, he still has a lot of money, he's still a powerful man, but he's lost like all the important things in his life. Overall, like I like the series, I think some of the episodes kind of drag a little here and there, but that's just kind of TV shows in general, I think Claudius, that's a pretty like tight show. There might be like one episode I could say that isn't like great. I think it might be the 5th one. It's where like there's this trial going on, and it has like nothing to do with like the imperial family. So I didn't really care for that one, but otherwise it's pretty good. And this one, it has a few little more like filler, but filler's not always bad. Filler is not always like a bad thing. So anyways, I like the show. It's cool. I'm happy to have seen it. I might check out the like 2015 version in maybe a few years, definitely not like back to back, and then I might like do a comparison video between them. Anyways, I'm going to have some stuff, or probably another video on like Sunday or Monday, which will be on like kind of meth in like America, and then kind of rural poverty a little bit. The 3 of them will be like documentaries. It's going to be like 3 documentaries, and I'll have that out soon. Anyways, I got other reviews on my channel. It's kind of this or that, some shit posting and such. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching. Dr. Infinity out.